Welcome to the Women's Circle Interviews. Our circle interviews are designed to model possibility, increase creativity, tap into intuition, and create a network of global connection to light up the world. It's only when you realize what's possible for you that you're able to step into who you are meant to be and build the business and life of your dreams on your own terms. You are truly magnificent and designed to live a life worthy of you. It's never too late to start. Are you ready? Let's dive right in. My guest today is Cameron Algie. Cameron is a professor of play at Play with Fire Improv. He's the founder and lead facilitator of the Improv for Anxiety program at Second City in Toronto. He's an instructor, professor, improviser, advertising copywriter, and former anxious person. Welcome to our circle, Cameron.
Thank you for having me.
I'm really thankful that you agreed to this interview because we have a common passion in improv. So I wanted to promote that and discuss that today.
I've been in your class. I've been in your class before.
And I've been in your class.
Yeah.
So why do you think it's important to add play in our lives?
For me personally, that was one of the big things that helped me through my anxiety. I think it was one of those things where I instinctively or just like logically thought I'm anxious. Anxiety is a problem for me, and how you fix the problem is like you do the work to fix the problem. And so you just focus on the problem until it's fixed. And so I'd wake up every day and just like see myself as a problem or my brain as a problem, and then like get to work on it and like meditate and therapy and self-help and like listening to like Sedona method or like anything I could find and track down. But I realized, looking back now, it was just me obsessively focusing on anxiety. So while I was trying to fix it, I just kept like focusing on it, and it just made it seem like it was always there in my life. And I didn't know there was this option of like, instead of just working on yourself all the time, take a break and like be silly and play. And it didn't occur to me that would be helpful, because to me, any second I wasn't working on myself was a danger that I would get worse, or I would like spiral out of control. And like the only thing holding me together was constant vigilance to try and maintain sanity. And so I thought work was the only way. And then when I tried improv, and it was just like, there were moments where I laughed, and that felt so good. Like I hadn't done that in a long time. And this sense of play that I was like, I could maybe grow this. Instead of like constantly thinking I need to shrink this side, I could grow this side. Like I could play more. And if anything, that will start to encroach on this side. And so I feel like play is super important, because it just doesn't, it's become such a small part of our lives, because work takes precedent. Work gets so prioritized, and I understand like for money and like mental health, you do the work, but for me, it was so transformational to just laugh and be silly and take a break from just the constant work on myself. That's why.
That is so interesting, because that's a theme that recurs to me like in my life, that I see like said in different ways. I love gardening and tending my garden, and I kept pulling out weeds, right? Always pulling out these weeds, and weeds keep coming back. And when you pull out a weed, you leave a spot for something to come out, and usually that's another weed, right? And at some point I thought, you know what, I'm done pulling the weeds. I just want to plant stuff. So I'm going to plant until there's no room for the weeds, like until all what I want all over the garden. So it's like, I don't care if weeds grow, I'm going to let them until I have something to plant in that spot, and then I'll plant something. And now my gardens are pretty much weed free, and there's just all this amazing goodness. Like I do edible gardens, so like everything I plant is like some kind of edible flower or edible herb or edible something. And it's just like totally landscape, and weeds have no room because it's just so well rooted now with everything I want. And I realize that applies to life. We tend to focus on the weeds. We don't want this, and I should not do this, and I shouldn't think this, and whatever the shoulds that we tell ourselves, instead of thinking, oh, that's interesting, I want to focus on this, and I'm going to focus on this right now, right? Like this will naturally dissolve as I focus on what I want.
Yeah.
Will naturally.
I still do that now with things where I'm like, right now, am I moving away from what I don't want, or am I moving towards what I want? And sometimes they're just totally different paths.
Yeah.
Like if you just think, oh, is this making me less anxious, or is this bringing me more joy? Those could be two totally different things, totally different activities.
Totally.
It's just like you can reframe everything. So I love, even though it's not an analogy, you literally did it. I love the gardening analogy.
Yeah.
Of like, don't forget the weeds. Instead of focusing on how do I get rid of the weeds, how do I get more of the things I do like? Love it.
And it totally works in the garden and in your mind. So how did you stumble on improv?
You stumbled. I literally one of the things that I used to do when I was like trying to practice feeling embarrassment is I would like kick the back of my foot when I was walking so that I would stumble, so that I would feel a flush of embarrassment, and then other people would like look at me and I felt their judgment, and I wanted to like practice that so I would get used to it. Anyway, so stumbling is something I'm actually quite good at. I can do very good pratfalls because I just practiced stumbling, because to me it was an embarrassing thing to just not walk properly. Anyway, a little tangent on the word stumble. How I stumbled into improv was I can't remember which came first, my therapist or a friend of mine. I think it's possible a friend of mine from advertising took me to see a show called Catch 23 at Clinton's Tavern in Toronto. Anyway, it was an improv show, and I was terrified. I was terrified because I associated improv with like stand-up comedy, heckling, making fun of the audience, or like having the audience involved. And so I just like, it took them forever to drag me out. And so my wife came with me and the friends was there, and then we sat in like not quite the back in case they circled around, but like second last row, and just tried to be innocent looking. Anyway, I thought the show was amazing. I loved watching it. I was like, what an art form. That's really impressive. And then I was seeing a couple therapists for both anxiety and a fear of flying. And one of my therapists, I think, saw that I liked trying to make him laugh. So like, if he asked me any vulnerable question, like a man raised in a toxic household, I guess, I wasn't good at being vulnerable. I wasn't good at like feeling or expressing emotions or being vulnerable. Yeah, I said vulnerable twice. And so I would try and like joke my way through it, but I kind of like wanted to see if he liked my jokes. And so he said, "Oh, I think you seem to like your sense of humor. There's something that it seems like you like about yourself." Because I kept expressing that I hate life and me and stuff like that. And he's like, "Oh, you seem to enjoy your sense of humor. You should take a class at Second City. You should take an improv class." And I really hated the idea. I went home and I discussed it with my wife, and then we agreed together, just like that I shouldn't see that therapist anymore. It was just like in my mind, it was that I had expressed that I'm scared. I'm scared to leave the house. I've isolated myself from the world, and I'm just anxious all the time, and I'm depressed, and I hate myself, and I don't want to do this anymore. And he's like, yeah, go on stage and make up jokes. And it just like, it seemed so not fitting with a basic understanding of what anxiety is. And then around 6 months later, I felt like I reached like a real depressed desperation point. And I was like, okay, no, I think I am now willing to just try anything. And so let's give that improv thing a try. And so I signed up. I signed up just out of fear of not trusting myself. Yeah, to not give up on life, kind of thing. And so I signed up for Second City just out of this desperate Hail Mary of, I hope something works. And it was like, for me, truly a lifesaver. That it took me a lot to get to that first class, and I had a friend from work and my wife like go with me and try and make me go. And before that first class, I still had like diarrhea and vomiting, and just like my body saying, this is dangerous, don't do this. But I got into the class and yeah, suffered through the first one. I don't know how much I enjoyed the first one or remember it, but enough that I kept going back, and yeah, it started to help. So I like that. Anyway, that's how I got into it.
Yeah. And how do you like? What do you think about improv helped your anxiety?
Yeah, I would say there was a tremendous link between improv and what I was reading about in self-help and stuff like that. Like, it was just, you read The Power of Now, and then you go to improv and they're like, be in the moment, be present. It's just,
Right.
you go line by line. I'm like, whoa. And then just the idea of connecting with others. Anxiety is very like internal and isolating, and it keeps you from moving, it keeps you from connecting, it keeps you from talking, it keeps you from doing anything. And so just the idea that I had started to become aware of other humans, instead of just living in my head, because you kind of need to connect with others, and mistakes, being allowed to make mistakes, the non-judgment nature, like the yes, like improv is built around the, this idea of yes and. To me, the yes was this sense of acceptance, where I would say an offer, and in my head I'd be like, that was dumb, why'd I say it, I like this garbage, and then people would say yes to it. And it was this interesting thing of like, oh, okay, cool, so there's this sense of safety here, this is sense of acceptance. And so I loved all of the like links to how it was like logically helping. But I think one of the biggest things was just like moving around and laughing and playing and being silly. And so as much as I love like all the therapeutic aspects and the self-help aspects, and they're there. But what I think what truly was transformational to me was what's underneath, which is, let's just be silly and have fun.
Yeah.
Because I hadn't focused on fun. What adult focuses on fun?
You're not supposed to.
Yeah, like life is about suffering, or how much you can reduce the suffering. And so the idea of fun seemed like so new and so exciting. And yeah, that's what really hooked me in, is what I love about improv is just the play and the fun and the laughter and the silliness,
Yeah.
and not having everything be so serious. Yep.
Yeah. It's like the transformation happens through play. So you don't even realize that you're working on yourself, like the non-judgment and, the accepting offers, but also making offers, right? Like not
Yeah.
criticizing yourself. You don't really realize that. I mean, you do realize it happens because you're working through it, but I
Yeah.
mean, like, you're having fun working
Yeah.
through it. It's not like you're sitting
Yeah.
at home by yourself working through it.
Agreed. I was still, and possibly still am very much able to judge myself during improv.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But I do it less.
I stumbled on that one because it's like, yeah, like I'm caught in the moment. Oh yes, I have no judgment. I was like, oh, wait a minute. Yes, I still do.
Yeah. In the moment I might not. And then it's like on the bike home or whatever, like, why did I
Oh,
say that?
my.
What was I thinking when I did it? But that's one of the big things I noticed, like really further on down the line, I would do shows and I could have a not great show. And on the way home go, yeah, you know what? Sometimes I have good shows, sometimes I don't.
Yeah.
And just that sense of self-forgiveness, like, oh, it's just so nice, so nice to have. Because yeah, you like, I feel like I feel like I spent the first like 35 years of my life just hating myself and life. So the past 10 have just been a joy. I can't recommend it enough, to just focus on the play. Anyway.
Yeah. So, and I have the same, I mean, I didn't have anxiety, but I had a similar experience in the sense that for me, like there was not much joy and I felt the need to add fun and play, even though, you know, we're not allowed, we're adults, we're supposed to work hard and make a living and be very serious at it. There's just this one day, for me, it was 20 years ago, that for whatever reason, I don't even remember why. It was just, I'm going to try improv. And I had no desire to act or be on stage or do anything. It was just something silly, like something out of the ordinary, not me kind of thing, right?
But you didn't see like an ad for an improv class or anything like
Yeah,
just suddenly it's like, I'm gonna try improv.
I might have, but for me,
Okay.
that's what, like, my memory is just me walking along thinking, I need fun in my life. Like, this
Yeah.
is depressing. And then my brain going, well, why aren't you trying improv? Like, that's my memory of it. But surely there must have been something I saw that I signed out. Like, it just doesn't make sense.
That's great.
Yeah.
I
And
didn't know it was missing.
yeah.
I
Oh,
didn't know it was missing till I had it. Till
right.
I had
Well, I
joy
didn't
in
know.
my life.
Yeah. I didn't know improv was missing, but I knew joy was missing. Yeah. I didn't know joy was improv. It was just I need to try something. It was my thought. I need to try something different. Anything. It's
I
not
don't know if I
working.
knew what joy was.
Right.
And then I connect improv with joy because I didn't know what either of them were before going in.
Right.
Yeah.
Makes sense. So like I guess okay, so for you, you connected the dots, I guess because you're a therapist and then he planted a seed and then you
Yeah.
ended up going to right.
Yeah,
So
I connected no dots myself. I
okay.
was I don't want to say I was going to take after my dad, but it's like my dad generally was depressed and just hated life, but like and talked about how yeah, life sucks and you just do it and you just get through it and you have a family because that's what you're supposed to do and you stick it with your job even though your job sucks because that's what you're supposed to do. And I think I was kind of on the same path,
Right.
which is yeah, life sucks and you hate life, but that's what life is, and life is suffering and you just like pick a job and you just stick with it and that kind of thing. And then yeah, yeah, when I started improv, I was like, what is this thing called joy? I don't know. I don't know if it's too late to introduce my dad, but there's this like whole other side of life that we just haven't been experiencing. And so, yeah, I didn't connect any dots or know that it was missing. And when my therapist said like, oh, go play, I was like, I don't understand what you mean. Like it was, yeah, the dots had to be just drawn for me and
Right.
like
Get
really
to
shoved
push.
down my throat. Yeah,
Yeah.
for me to
So
go, oh, yeah.
so today, like now, what would you say? How do you help people connect those dots? Like what would people like need to know? How do you help people connect? Because I mean, you work a lot with anxiety still, like with people that have
Yeah.
anxiety, right? So how do you get, like, you meet somebody and how do you get them to connect that, oh, improv can help you? Since when you were told improv, you're like, are you crazy? Like, are you not listening to what I'm saying here?
Yeah. I mean, if I meet someone on the street, I don't go up and say, "You seem anxious. Can I offer some help?" It really
Step on the
is
stage.
like get on the stage. Yeah, I make them go through the same thing I went through, which is I pitch the idea, let them like spiral downwards for another 6 months until they get desperate enough, and then come back. Um, uh, you know what? A big thing for me is, and I said this early on in interviews about the Improv for Anxiety program, which is the name is so helpful. Just having anxiety in the name, and when I started doing Play with Fire Improv, we had a class called like Play Anxiety Away, stuff like that. I feel like if you link like improv or play with the word anxiety and put them together, I think anxious people can see the word anxiety and relate to that. And even if the other word seems foreign to them, or just like, oh, I don't know what that is, I'll give it a try. So if it's like gardening for anxiety or dance for anxiety, or like dance your anxiety away, or something like paint your anxiety away, or like paint for anxiety, people are like, oh, I get the anxiety part because I have that. And so I'm open to this new thing because it's possible they're also in the place where I was, which is I'm desperate to try anything.
Right.
I'm doing therapy. It doesn't seem to be working fast enough, or I want supplemental stuff. I want to try new things. And I feel like there's this whole new like branch of alternate things you can do, that feels more common now than maybe when I started when I started my anxiety when I started improv. And so yeah, I feel like one of the keys to selling it is by letting them know this is for you. This is something for, and it'll be a group of people who are like-minded, and you'll be surrounded by other people who also don't want to be there, but are
Yeah.
like desperate and will try anything. And so it is a lot of people just coming to me as opposed to me going out and saying, hey, play can help. It's just like putting the class idea out there, which is like play for anxiety or improv for anxiety can help.
Right.
Um, and then have them experience it, because again, it's hard to like logic your way through anxiety, and so anything I said probably wouldn't be as helpful as like come experience it. Come
Right.
experiencing play and being silly and laughing, and you'll leave going, yeah, yeah, that feels nice. But me trying to like explain how play could help, I don't know if it would have the same thing. But that was a long rambling answer of saying I don't do anything. I feel like the name does a lot.
It's a great answer. But now you told me that you have to experience it and you can't explain it, but I'm still going to ask, how does improv inspire people to commit to joy and play?
Like outside of class or just in
In
general?
class.
In class, okay.
We'll start
uh,
with in class.
Meaning, what's the link
Like,
between improv and play?
yeah, like how does it, so they go, okay, so you're super anxious, but for whatever reason, you're desperate and you decide, okay, I'm going to go try this improv thing. Now they're in the class, and I know you have to experience it. You already told us, but they're in the class. What is it that inspires them to play?
Like how do they go from sitting there hating being in the class to getting up
Yeah,
and playing?
yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, good. I don't know. I have no idea why people do it.
I know you.
I don't know why I did it. It's one of those things where I've described improv less as Like the intro classes especially are less, it's not like Whose Line Is It Anyway, where you're doing scenes and trying to like make up stuff on the spot. I think of it more as like teaching adults to play in the park the way kids play in the park. Like just the idea of go off and play and use your imaginations and be silly. And so how we get them from sitting down, not wanting to be in the class, I like to start with movement-based stuff because we hold our anxiety in our bodies, and it like keeps us stationary and tight and stuff like that. And so like getting people moving around and being silly. So I won't necessarily have them dancing. I don't want to scare everyone immediately away. But just the idea of like, shaking out our bodies. So even the exercise of like, hey, let's just shake out our bodies can feel very intimidating. Like, oh, I feel like I look silly right now, just shaking out my body. But then there's a sense of like, oh, if everyone else is doing it, everyone else is doing it, as long as I haven't like pinned myself and I'm the only screen, you're aware that, oh, if I feel safer being silly when we're being silly together.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, to me, movement-based stuff can be genuinely helpful to like introduce the idea of silliness. I remember, like, well, back when things were in class, I loved playing like tag, like just a game of tag, or like freeze tag, or like silly things. There's a game like, I don't know if you've ever done like Bunny Bunny, where you're like Kunja, Kunja, Bunny Bunny Bunny. Okay, I don't know. Anyway, it's hard to explain. Improv. Or just like the game Yes Let's, where you act stuff out. It's like, let's go hiking. And then everyone like mimes it. It can be a simple activity, but it is just like, oh, I'm getting into my body. I feel like I am acting something out. I'm using my imagination. I do still feel like a little silly playing with imagination stuff because I am an adult. But yeah, I think movement and laughter, those two things, if you combine those two things, I think people can get to a place of comfort and safety reasonably quickly.
I love that you said it's easier to be silly when we're being silly together. So if other people are being silly, I'm going to look silly if I'm not, basically.
Yeah. It's like almost more embarrassing to not be silly. It's just like,
right.
God, I guess if everyone's doing it, yeah.
Just don't want to stand out.
Improv's just based around peer pressure.
Yeah.
Peer pressure. Okay, let's all be silly, and then we'll trick them into being silly. Then we'll try to laugh. It's not that. It's not that at all. It's a joke.
No, I think we're naturally playful. We just don't realize it because we've been told not to play. Because I find in my group, like just the willingness to participate in whatever I do, like people, they just follow along, right? Like it's not, there's no coercing or anything. Like people just naturally follow along. They're there to play.
Yeah, I've had people like message me like about companies or like, oh, we have a lot of tech people, or we have like, oh, can you come into our like accounting firm? And just like, I'll often get warned like, hey, just a heads up that not everyone might be like into playing. And in my head, I'm like, I bet they are. I bet they super are. I bet they're crazy playful, just maybe not at work because they don't feel like they have the permission.
Exactly.
And that more often than not is just very true, that they're just like, once they see that, oh, we're allowed to show our silly side, wait till you see this kind of thing. Yeah, it's true.
All right. So to be playful, to go along the theme, if you had one superpower, what would it be?
I just immediately think of, this feels too big now. I was gonna say Neo from the Matrix.
Awesome.
Where just the idea of being conscious of the fact that the world is just numbers, and to not, and to like not have a sense of detachment, but a sense of, oh, I know what's happening right now around me is like a projection. And so I feel like there's a sense of, oh, if something goes wrong, I understand that it's just numbers.
Yeah.
That's the thing. But I've often said, it's funny that I chose Neo, because I've often described, because my wife was like, oh, you think of yourself as Neo, and I was like, it's such an arrogant thing. I was like, that's probably true. And then I thought about it. I was like, no, I think I want to be Morpheus and help train people to be Neo. Like I want to be the one to like find Neo and help set Neo's mind free, but not necessarily need to be Neo. Having said that, I guess my ego chose Neo, so in short, Neo.
Awesome. Yes. You have to step into your power, not behind the curtain,
Yeah,
right? That's
yeah.
when he
See the
gets all
numbers.
his, yeah, that's when he gets all his powers. But it's super interesting. But I mean, I guess that's in your reality, The Matrix. But for me, it's like I've watched it many, many years ago when it came out. But in the past week, it's amazing the number of times the references have been coming up. So
Oh yeah.
in this Matrix thing right now. So that's pretty cool.
Maybe it's like a 30th anniversary or something.
Maybe that's what it is.
Maybe it's in the ether right now. Like, why are we
Yeah,
all about the Matrix?
yeah,
Yeah.
it must be. It's just time to bring it back up. If you had to summarize improv in one word, what would that one word be?
Is this going to seem too on theme if I say play?
No, of course not.
Also,
That's
joy.
awesome.
I'm going to go joy.
Play or joy.
I go joy. I feel like
All
there's
right.
synopsis. That's a great
No,
way
that's
to
good. It's good. I mean, it goes along, right? We're not lying. It's what comes up.
Yeah. How would you
And if
describe
you
play?
could,
Sorry.
and if you could leave us with one piece of wisdom, so that was like you could only give us one piece of wisdom, what would be that most important thing for us to know?
Uh,
So many.
yeah, I got like prioritize play.
That's
Like
awesome.
work works, but play also works, and play is more fun.
Play is more fun.
Yeah.
Would you say play works better or no?
Oh, I'm scared to say that. um, for I, I, uh, I think I'm scared to say this because I think a lot of people like me have to do the work to get to the point where you feel like you're willing to give play a try.
Okay.
I think it is hard to be like in a really dark place and jump right into being silly.
Okay.
I feel like the work is like a transitional tool to get to the play.
That's
And
beautiful.
so it can be tough to jump to the play. So I want to say like the work works to get you to a place where you can feel maybe you're ready now to jump to the play.
That's super powerful. Like I'm getting goosebumps just because that gives meaning to the work. Because sometimes we think like the work is so like hard, we're dredging through it, but the way that you just said it is like there's a reason for that
Yeah,
work.
yeah,
Like it's a step towards being able to give yourself permission to play.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, cool.
I think it's a step I needed, and I'm glad I took. And I mean, I still shouldn't say it in past tense. I still meditate. I still meditate. I still listen to like seminars. I still read about, mental health and stuff like that. And so, yeah, I haven't ruled it out. I know the value in both.
Nice.
It really is. To me, it's just finding a greater balance as opposed to what I used to do, which is 100% work, and it just burnt me out, and it was exhausting to never allow myself a break or allow myself joy. And so, yeah, balance, play and
Yeah.
joy, play and joy together.
Yeah.
Play and joy, play and work. I couldn't even say the word work. Play and work together.
Work done.
Play and joy together also works.
Yes. So where do you see yourself in 10 years?
Oh wow. I have truly no idea. And I'm not just saying that from like as an improviser and someone who's obsessed with like living in the moment. I think it is like 10 years ago, I was a copywriter in advertising who only did improv. I was taking improv classes. Now it's like my career and the business I run, and it is my life, and I'm a totally different person, and I'm like so much happier. I feel like I see the person from 10 years ago, and while I recognize them, they are totally different. So I would say where I see myself 10 years from now is looking back and not recognizing this version of me. Because wherever life has taken me into the next part, then I'll look back and go, yeah, I did like the Cameron from 10 years ago, but yeah, this one's also fun. Yeah. But like in space, I'm living on the moon.
All right. That's awesome.
To actually answer, I think I'm living on the moon.
It's a possibility. Are you working on anything right now?
For improv?
Like for improv or anxiety? Are you working on anything right now?
Yeah. I mean, the play with fire improv is just always like a constantly running business, and improv for anxiety intro classes, advanced classes. I put up an advanced class thinking the name would scare people away, and I think it's selling out more than the other classes.
Oh wow! We all think we're advanced.
Yeah. All right. It's just like that sense of maybe like tough love, like, if I can make it through the advanced class, then I'll truly have transformed. So I know what it's like. I know what it's like to live with anxiety or like suffer with it, and just like any way we can reach out and say, hey, play can help with that. Give it a try. Just like different ways of making that possible. But even like, as I said before, like gardening and painting and dancing and anything that can bring you joy to balance the pain can be tremendously helpful.
Well, that was awesome. Thank you so much for joining me today, and it was really great connecting with you, and I really appreciate you sharing your gift and wisdom with improv and anxiety. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for inviting me. It was a pleasure. It was a fun interview.
If you suffer from anxiety, Cameron recommends you join their Introduction to Improv for Anxiety online classes. It's hard not to feel anxious these days, but it's also hard to keep feeling as anxious when you're laughing and playing and having fun. Join Cameron to play your anxiety away. Check it out at playwithfire.com/classes. If you haven't already, be sure to join our women's circle, Awakken Feminine, to reclaim your authentic voice through play. We meet to create connection, elevate, and celebrate each other through games and exercises geared to tap into our intuition and give voice to our longings and desires. If you have a gift you want to share with the world, I encourage you to schedule an interview with me so I can help you spread your unique message and perspective. You don't need any superpowers or be well on your way. You just need to have an idea, a vision, or a direction that you think will inspire others. And if no one told you today, I want you to know that you're amazing. Continue to live with passion, purpose, and presence. The world needs to see your light shine brightly as an example to others of what is possible for them also.